everyone, welcome, and thank you for the warm welcome from the Lung Health Foundation. We're really glad to be here today and have a little bit of an interactive webinar. I always like to call it a workshop because we will ask you to move with us a little bit and answer a couple of questions in the chat, but we're really excited to be here and talk about the value of exercise for individuals living with and beyond lung cancer. I'm going to share my screen here and just pull up a couple slides, but one of the first things we'll do is actually start with a little bit of movement. So give me 1 second here, just pull this up here, and hopefully you can all see this in full screen mode here. But again, thanks for joining us for this workshop today. We're really happy to be here. And just before we get into things, I would like to do a little land acknowledgement. So here in Calgary, where Juliana and I live and work, we do acknowledge that we live and work in the traditional territories of the Blackfoot and the people of the Treaty 7 region of Southern Alberta. This includes the Siksika, the Piikani, the Kainai, the Tsuut'ina, and the Stoney Nakoda First Nations, which includes the Chiniki, Bearspaw, and Wesley First Nation. And the city of Calgary is also home to the Métis Nation of Alberta, Region 3. So with that, I'm going to jump right into our workshop today. And if you take one thing away, or if you remember one thing, it's this acronym ACTIVE here. We've modeled our workshop around this just to give you something to go from and something to take home, this acronym here. So ACTIVE is our workshop overview. We're going to be starting and going through these letters one by one. So to start with, all movement counts. Then we'll move into talking about cancer and exercise, and as well as some of the tumor-specific benefits for lung cancer populations. And then we're going to go into the second half of this workshop, which is in the green text here, talking about some of the initial steps to becoming or being active, then also developing that view of movement as a lifestyle and yourself as a mover. We're going to have a couple nice activities in the second half of this workshop. And then lastly, Juliana, who is our Excel program coordinator, research coordinator, is going to talk about the Excel program, which is a free exercise oncology program available to you, as well as other resources to help you if you are interested in becoming more active or feel like you need some support in getting there. So the first part is really focused around answering this question of why move, talking about the benefits of movement for individuals with cancer. And then the second part is focused around how to move more. So enabling you, empowering you with some tools and strategies and some tips on how to change your behavior and adopt some of those healthy, physically active habits. So with that, I said we're going to be getting into some movement here. So we're going to start with a little bit of movement. I'm going to stop my share again here and come back to the slides in just a second, but it wouldn't be an active workshop without some movement and some activity. So if you are able, and if you're in a space where you can do so safely, we're going to do some very gentle movement just to get ourselves moving a little bit, because we want to practice what we preach and we want to do a little bit of movement, get the brain woken up as well for today. So I'm just going to slide my chair out of the picture here and encourage you to stand up. You can also join me in a seated position. We're just going to bring our arms out to our sides. We're just going to do a quick minute of movement here. So we'll just start with some very gentle arm swings. You can give yourself a big hug like so, and then come back to extended position. And then from there, we're going to do some gentle arm circles. Like I said, all movement counts. All of this is part of getting those benefits of exercise, but also moving and feeling good and feeling energetic. So you can just join me with some gentle arm circles. Everyone's movement is going to look different here. Nice gentle arm circles. And then we're going to get into some little pulses. So bring your arms out to your sides. And what we're going to do here is just try to make little tiny circles with your hands, with your arms. Try to keep your shoulders down and relaxed. And then moving your arms like so. Nice and gentle. You should feel a little burn in the shoulders now. You'll realize you're using those shoulder muscles to lift your arms up. And you're starting to do some exercise here, some targeted movement to work to improve the shoulder strength and stability. Whew. My arms are burning a bit, so I'm going to relax my arms here, bring them down to the sides, shake them out, And then we're going to do our last part here is get the legs moving a little bit. So if you've got a seat behind you, I encourage you to get up off that seat for a second, stand up fully, extend your legs. You can have your arms out your sides. I have a little couch behind me here, so I'm just sitting back down on that, coming back up. We call these sit to stands. It's like a squat. Awesome way to get some movement in. So we're just going to do 5 more of these here, nice and gentle, moving at your own pace. And then we'll get back to the nitty gritty, but doing some movement is awesome here. So 2 more. I kind of lost count. I hope that was 5. If you've done 6, kudos to you. That's an extra one. Awesome. So let's take a big deep breath. If you've got some water handy, maybe you want to grab a quick drink, but let's jump back into it. Thanks to everyone for joining me, and you all just did well over a minute, maybe a couple minutes of movement there. Hopefully that felt good for all of you. So let's jump into things now, back to our workshop here, what you all came for. And the first thing we're talking about in a fitting introduction is that all movement counts. So whatever you do, including these movement minutes or taking a break at a busy day and doing a couple laps around your room or a couple arm circles, that is all movement. And every step and every arm movement, leg movement, whatever movement is a step in the right direction. That's something we always try to emphasize. We know it can be hard sometimes to start moving, or if we're in a space where we're just recovering from really intensive treatments, it feels like we've got this mountain to climb to reach like big long-term exercise levels, or really like go out for a run. And that's not what we're asking you to do. Start with those little steps, start small, and every step you take, as soon as you start moving, some of that activity is better than doing nothing. And we just want to start thinking about moving more in daily activities, start thinking about what we can do to be slightly more active as we can start to feel those benefits. And the more movement does confer more benefits. So as we start building that momentum, start building some movement, maybe we can start incorporating some longer times of movement, some longer walks, different things. And we increase gradually to make sure that we feel like we're in that successful cycle here of getting some movement in, feeling good about it, not overdoing it and feeling really exhausted, feeling good, feeling confidence, and getting that movement up over time. And then setting movement goals is really, really important. So we're going to talk about this a little bit more later on, but thinking about what do you want to get out of this? What's your purpose for trying to exercise or move more? And what are the goals that you want to achieve? Where do you want to end up? And I love this quote in this picture here saying that big journeys begin with small steps. And the same can be said for any physical activity, lifestyle or physical activity journey. Starting with small steps is what we want you to try to do and go from there. So with that, I'm going to go a little bit into talking about some of the benefits and some of the really amazing research that's been done around why individuals with cancer can and should be exercising and gaining some benefits of moving more. So we know that from a lot of different research studies across the world, lots has been done in Canada, Australia, and many other countries, that exercise is both safe and beneficial for all those living with cancer. This includes lung cancer and other cancer groups as well. And this is true across the entire cancer continuum. So this means all the way from before treatment, into treatment, post-treatment, and then into long-term care. So whether that's survivorship or advanced cancer care, there's benefits to be had from being physically active. And we want to enable you, we want to encourage you to get moving a little bit and start to gain some of those benefits of activity. So some of the benefits are outlined here, and this is by no means all of them, but these are some of the benefits that have been the most well studied. So we can sit here confidently and talk about them and say that these are some of the key benefits. And these are both physical and psychosocial. So that just means some of them are benefit improvements such as your physical function. Exercise can lead to reduction in lymphedema. So that's swelling in different parts of the body that can go down when you exercise. And then some really important psychosocial factors too. So there's really strong evidence for anxiety and depression. So exercise reducing those factors. reducing fatigue. I'm going to talk about this one a little bit more because we know that across so many different cancer types, whether it's short-term or long-term, fatigue is such an important and debilitating symptom that many people face, whether it's short-term or even often in the long term as well, and overall quality of life. So there's really strong evidence saying that individuals with cancer who exercise, who are more active, this can improve their quality of life, their physical function, and a number of other factors. And there's also some moderate evidence for things like bone health and sleep. So the fact that bone health can be improved for individuals who are physically active and take part in exercise programs. So with that, I'm going to talk a little bit more about cancer-related fatigue. And this is a stat taken from a review on cancer-related fatigue, showing that 94% of individuals who have gone through cancer treatments report cancer-related fatigue. So report some form of fatigue related to their treatment, their cancer long-term, but only 5% of these individuals report that with a physician, they've actively worked to treat this problem. So there's obviously a huge gap here. And the cool thing is, you might have guessed this already with the theme of this workshop, there's really strong evidence that being active, whether it's cardiovascular exercise, strength training, or combined training, can reduce fatigue, can reduce that vicious cycle of cancer-related fatigue. And over here on this diagram, we have this cycle of fatigue that we really want to break, and we can break that with exercise. So we see that fatigue can often lead to being more sedentary, so more seated behavior, less physical activity. This can cause you to lose physical fitness, to feel what we call deconditioned. This can then lead to things like loss of muscle mass. So you feel less fit, you sit more, your body's not using your muscle, so it starts to break down that muscle, and this can actually increase fatigue further. So it's this really complicated cycle, and that's why we say we want to start moving just a little bit, one step at a time, to try to break this cycle. And we know that on the opposite end of this, exercise can increase energy, reduce fatigue, and really help break this cycle and treat this cancer-related fatigue. So also we want to talk today about the specific population, and we thank you all for being here, and we acknowledge that all of you in one way or another have been affected by lung cancer. So we have had some really specific research, especially in the past couple of years in the Health and Wellness Lab, looking at exercise benefits for individuals with lung cancer. So this is a quick overview of what we call the ENPAL program, which stands for Exercise, Nutrition, and Palliative Symptom Management in Advanced Lung Cancer, where we worked with 10 adults that actually were recently diagnosed with advanced lung cancer. We worked with them for 12 weeks, and you gave them this free program that included physical activity. Once a week, it's group-based physical activity program supervised by a cancer exercise specialist. And in this program, we also included some nutritional counseling, some work with a symptom management specialist, so a palliative care specialist, as well as providing some additional resources. So with all our programs, we know the importance of also supporting behavior change. So giving people tips on how they can actually make this change a reality. We all know maybe to one degree or another that exercise is important, but it's not super easy to just get up off the seat and start exercising and go fully into that. So we did this ENPAL program. We had 10 individuals here, and we actually published the results that were really interesting, and there's some great takeaways here. So what we found first and foremost is that this program was feasible, enjoyable, and beneficial for those 10 participants that took a part in the program. We had 75% attendance across all the classes, and almost everyone was able to complete the assessments which were done to assess the benefits of the program before and after the program. And also, really importantly, on the bottom here, safety. There were no issues reported throughout the whole program. So we call this a safe program that didn't lead to any adverse events, any issues with safety. So we know it's feasible, safe for individuals, even with that advanced lung cancer. We also noticed that directly after the exercise, so we asked participants to respond to some questionnaires directly after they exercised. They reported decreased fatigue, decreased pain, depressive symptoms, and increased energy and well-being. And there's some really great quotes here. So what we did after the program is we actually interviewed participants to try to understand their perspectives on what did they think of the program? Did they enjoy it? Did they see benefit for themselves? And I love these different quotes because I think they so powerfully illustrate what our participants felt and what these individuals with advanced cancer got out of the program. So this individual said they realized that exercise is a better or a good treatment to the side effects that they had from the medication. And another individual said, overall, I'm really happy that I've been a part of it. It's been good for me. It's caused my quality of life to be better. And I think this really highlights it. Everyone wants to improve their quality of life. We want to make sure people are living well with and beyond cancer. And that's where exercise can really come in and be so powerful and lead to these different benefits. So in summary from what we just talked about, I want to come back to why movement matters. And hopefully the last couple of minutes and slides have already made this clear for you. But exercise is a really powerful way for you to be able to take some control back over your health and take steps to improve your health. Realizing there's a lot of different physical and psychosocial benefits of being physically active. You can address some specific side effects such as fatigue. You can improve your overall well-being. And we always have this, or we often have people reporting about this, saying that exercise helped them feel their normal self again or get back to some sense of normal. Additionally, we wanted to come back and highlight that every step counts. We started with this at the very beginning, but starting to move gradually, increasing that movement is really the way to go, and more movement can lead to more benefits. So with all the exercise benefits that have been researched and published around exercise for individuals with cancer, there are actually some guidelines published in 2019 by a group of experts on what are the guidelines or what are the things that these experts are recommending around exercise in cancer. So there's a couple different great statements here. So during treatment, they said exercise has been shown to be safe and feasible during treatment, improving physical functioning, fatigue, quality of life. And during treatment, they recommend to avoid inactivity to try to return to some normal daily activities as soon as possible. After treatment, we see that exercise is essential for gaining back fitness and recovery from treatment. So it can improve physical side effects, and there's growing evidence for a number of different side effects, and again, enhance your overall well-being. And lastly, it's really important to recognize that every person that's here today is their own person. They all have different situations and different contexts. So individualizing and tailoring are a necessary piece of this. And in all of our programs, we do this to some level. We ask you at the very beginning what your exercise experience is, what you're looking to get out of this program, your fitness levels, etc. And then we make sure that the programs are tailored to you as an individual. And now these are the overall recommendations from this expert panel around how much exercise is a good level of exercise to gain those benefits we talked about. And I don't want you to look at this and all of a sudden gasp and say 90 minutes of exercise, 2 days of strength training, and think that, oh, I'm not even close to this. I can't get any of the benefits of exercise. As I highlighted before, every step counts, and even working your way up to some of these levels is a way to gain the benefits of exercise. And you don't have to be doing 90 minutes or 2 days of strength training to be able to gain all these benefits. But the recommendations, so these are the levels that people can be aiming for working up towards gradually, includes 90 minutes of cardiovascular, so moderate intensity cardiovascular exercise per week, 2 days of strength training, and then also with a recommendation to do some flexibility training on most days of the week. So these are really a gold standard, a thing to aim for, but maybe not something that we immediately are achieving, but something that we're working towards. So with that, I'm going to take a quick breather here and just give you a chance to digest some of that information. But really what we've talked about to date or today in the workshop so far has been focused on the benefits of exercise, realizing that every step counts and understanding what that value is of moving more with and beyond cancer. And now we're going to talk a little bit about this, answering this question of how to move more. So now that you know You understand there's these benefits now. I want to get moving. I want to do something. How do I actually do that? Because we know that even when you have this conviction or you have this idea and these questions, it's not always obvious, and it's definitely not easy to start moving more and change your behavior, change your habits. So we're going to go through some tips for changing behavior. We're going to talk about the initial steps, some initial tricks you can use to start being active. We're going to talk about this really important self-identity of seeing yourself as a mover and movement as part of your lifestyle. And then we're going to talk about Excel and some of the other resources to help you. So here I'm going to encourage you to get your pen and paper ready as well, and get your typing fingers ready for the chat, because we are going to pose some questions to you. I am going to open the chat up and try to read some responses out, but we want to make sure this is a little bit of an interactive portion. And really, while we're giving you these tips, we want you to actually start putting these into action and thinking about how you can use these tips to get active. So the first thing we're going to talk about is some key initial steps to being active. As we said in the start, it starts with one step. Every big journey starts with small steps, and those initial steps are really key to becoming active. So on the right here, this is a well-researched model called the trans-theoretical model, and it describes the stages of behavior change, and this can be applied to exercise as well. But there's these different steps of building up from thinking about exercise to readying yourself to actually take those first steps and move more into action, and then maintenance, which refers to that long-term behavior change. So one of the key things in terms of initial steps to getting active is starting to build your self-regulatory skills. And what we mean by these is these are skills that you develop on your own to start thinking about exercise and start understanding, what am I doing? What can I do differently? How can I start one step at a time moving towards getting more active? So some of the tips we have for this self-regulatory piece is that it's important to start small. Like we said, when we're looking here and sitting and seeing these maybe daunting guidelines of 90 minutes per week of cardiovascular exercise and so forth, it's important to start small. So wherever you're at, try moving a little bit more each day. The other thing that's important, and we're going to do a little bit of this in the workshop just a little bit later, but it's important to get it on paper or write something down. So that's why I called on you to get your pen and paper ready, but making plans for how you're going to move more, setting some goals and reevaluating whether you're getting to those goals is a key thing to do. Write something down, think about it, have that accountability, and have that goal to work towards, because that can be motivating as we make progress towards that goal. Consistency, you've probably heard this one so many times, but being consistent is super important. Once you have those plans and goals that are going to help you to achieve that consistency, think about how you're going to put those plans into action, visualize what you're going to be doing, how you're going to be starting to move more, and also important to reward your successes. So as we do start an amazing habit of movement, we start noticing those benefits. It's important every once in a while to look back on your goals and your plans and realize that, oh, this is how far I've come. I've made this amazing progress. And maybe take a day off from exercise, breathe for a second and celebrate, reward your successes in whatever way you'd like to reward yourself. And then there's two more here. Also really important is to trust the process and allow for setbacks. So we sometimes think of this change or this accumulation of exercise in this really linear way. I'm going to start moving. It's just going to be all smooth sailing, an upward trajectory. And the reality of it is that there's so many different things that can get in the way and can disrupt that process a little bit, whether it's starting a new treatment, whether it's fatigue that's coming back really badly for a week, or whether it's even a personal or family issue that comes up and takes you away from your regular exercise routine. Trust that process and trust that when you have those plans and goals in place, that progress is going to happen. And even if it doesn't look linear, that's all going to be progress. And allowing for setbacks is really important as well. Realizing that We're not going to be able to progress just every day linearly all the time. We're going to have some setbacks. So we might have those days where we're really not feeling up for it, or we have just a crazy busy day. We're not able to get out and do the movement that we had planned for. And that's totally okay. So you have to give yourself grace in this process, and you have to be understanding of those setbacks. And last, but definitely not least, this is one I always talk about. We need to figure out ways to enjoy our movement. So I always encourage people, find things that you enjoy, find ways to do exercise, whether it's with friends where you're having a social aspect to it, or whether it's outside nature where you're getting that fresh air, you just love being out in nature and moving like that. Finding ways to enjoy your movement and have fun doing it is so important, because when we have these enjoyable and fun experiences, those are going to be the ones that are going to be bringing us back and say, I want to do this again. I want to keep moving more and making that progress. So with that, we're going to get into a little bit of goal setting and just writing some ideas and goals into the chat in just a second. I want to highlight some of the really keys to physical activity behavior change. So as you can see in this diagram, we've put those steps that I just highlighted in the previous slide in the middle here as some of those small steps working towards a physically active lifestyle. And this triangle really highlights 3 of the key factors to building long-term physical activity behavior change. So one thing down in the bottom left is resources and opportunity. And what we mean by that is just figuring out what resources are available to you. What can you have around you? Maybe it's in your cancer center, or maybe it's in your local fitness facility. Maybe it's your home exercise space, or maybe it's a walking group that happens in your community. What resources are around you that can help support you to be physically active? What opportunities do I have to be active? Do I have a really great park nearby that can allow me to get on long walks and things of that nature? So Juliana is going to talk a little bit more about some great resources that are actually available to all of you and that we've built at the Health and Wellness Lab. At the top here, the second one is self-confidence. So this is something, your belief in your ability to actually become a mover and be active. So this comes with those small steps and small successes. So as you start moving, as you start achieving some small goals you set for yourself, or as you start building your minutes week by week of exercise, you're going to realize that yes, you can do this, and you are an exerciser. You can do so much with your body, and you can gain so many of those benefits, and that really builds self-confidence, which then encourages you to keep up with it and keep going. And then the last one, which I'm going to focus on the most in the next couple of slides here, is motivation and support. So thinking about, what are you motivated for? What, first of all, got you to this workshop today? Why did you come and attend today? You already have some of that motivation and thinking built up. I know that because it took you that motivation to register for this workshop and show up today and give your time. But also thinking about what motivates you. What do you really want to get out of becoming a mover or getting back to a physical activity habit? What's that motivation? We're going to talk about that in terms of setting some goals and using that motivation to set some goals, put a plan in action. And then support is super important. So we always, all of our programs at the Health and Wellness Lab are built in a group-based sort of manner, because we know the importance of having people around you that are helping to support you, and especially when the going gets tough, having people that know what you're trying to achieve with exercise, and having people that are going to go for a walk with you, or that are going to encourage you to try doing some little bit of movement every day. Those are going to be the people, and those are really key. So we're going to move into that a little bit here and talk about social support. So why do we talk about social support? The fact of the matter is that getting social support and having people around you in your life that are supportive and keeping you accountable and motivated with your exercise increases your chances by a really high margin to be successful with exercise. So social support is so important, and so many different people around you can provide social support. So maybe the first thing you thought of was my family, my partner, my children, but also friends and neighbors. You can also have exercise role models, or maybe you've had a personal trainer or a different trainer of some sort. Maybe you've had a coach when you were playing sports in your younger years. co-workers, as well as online networks. There's really a lot of ways to gather social support, and figuring out what of those social supports are available to you, how you can make use of those is going to be a key step. And then also thinking about how you can get that support. So there's so many different ways in which an individual or a group can support you in being active. We have the example of group exercise classes. So here in this picture on the right, we have 3 ladies that participated in one of our pre-COVID programs in our Thrive Center. And you can see they're supporting each other. They're having a good time and really getting that social aspect too of the exercise. You can plan to go for a weekly walk with a partner, or even your dog can provide social support if it's begging you to go outside and walk every day. You can also just have an open conversation about exercise. Just having someone that might not even be in your same city or country with you, but someone that calls you and asks you, what have you done this week? Like, how's it going with your movement? Have you gotten out for a walk today? And maybe shares a picture of their walk with you via WhatsApp or a social media platform. Can be awesome social support. So with that, I'm going to give you a second to just maybe write down quickly 1 or 2 ways in which you might be able to get some social support, or maybe also in ways that you're already being supported with physical activity or through your cancer treatment or other factors. So I'm going to look at the chat quickly here and just see how are people getting social support, and what are some ways that you might be able to feel supported in your physical activity, thinking about these different factors that are up on the slide here. I know that I've given you lots to think about, so maybe it's still that processing stage and we're not quite there yet, but I encourage you to keep thinking about this, and maybe things will flow in the chat in just a second here, but think about how you can get that support to be physically active. And now we're going to move into a second piece here, talking about motivation. So we talked about the importance of goal setting and motivation as one of those 3 keys to becoming and staying physically active. And there's 3 things I want you to, or 3 steps I want you to think about when it comes to figuring out your motivation. So first of all, I want you to think about what motivates you to move more. So you're obviously all here in this workshop for a reason. You've already had that first step of thinking about what movement might look like and why you might want to move more. So think about that motivation, and take a second, if you have a pen and paper handy, write down those things. What is your motivation? Why are you here? Why would you like to move more? And then once we figure out that motivation, we want to start setting a roadmap of some goals and some plans on how we can take that motivation and turn it into an action plan. So when it comes to goals, there's 2 important factors. We want to think about figuring out a realistic challenge for ourselves. So if we've just recently finished our treatment and our energy is pretty low, maybe our fitness isn't the highest as we've been challenged by that treatment, we want to think about how can we build up that movement gradually. So we might not want to set a goal of like, I want to run a marathon in 1 month, because that's going to be really challenging to get back on that. Although it's definitely possible, but we want to think about those realistic goals, but that are still challenging. And control is really important. So thinking about based on the motivation you have, based on the confidence that you've built up, setting goals that are going to be under your control. So thinking about enjoying the process, thinking about figuring out goals that are gonna align with your motivation, your confidence. And then lastly, coming back to the piece around enjoyment, we want you to enjoy the process. So as you set goals and make plans, don't just think about the end goal or evaluate your progress on a 0 to 1 scale. Think about progress that you've made towards a goal. Even if you don't get fully towards that goal, think about the process, the progress that you've made. look back at that goal and that plan regularly and think about, is this working for me? Is this something that I need to adjust? Do I need to pull in more social support, or do I need to change my goal to be a little bit more realistic? And then celebrate. So this is important. We talked about this before, celebrating progress and celebrating things that happen over time. Even if we maybe fall just short of a lofty goal that we set for ourselves, we can still celebrate and realize how far we've come. So with that, one of the ways we talk about goal setting, and maybe you've already seen this acronym of the SMART goal setting. This is something that's super commonly used in all kinds of behavior change, including exercise, but SMART goal stands for specific goals. So is this something that's really clear what I'm wanting to achieve? Measurable, is this something where I can measure my progress and measure my success? Is it attainable? So that comes around that level of, is this goal challenging but still realistic? R stands for relevant and realistic. So it's important to pick something that really is relevant to you, that aligns with your motivation. And then timely and together. So T, the two T's, timely and together. So having support to work towards that goal, and having a timeline, thinking about, in what timeline do I want to reach this goal, or when do I want to reevaluate my goal? So with that, again, I'm going to activate you here. If you feel free to kind of share into the chat. I'd love for you to share in the chat, but I want you to think about at least starting to set some sort of SMART movement goal for yourself. Thinking about, what does that goal mean to you? Why is it important for you to move more and achieve that goal? What is the benefit of making that change for yourself? And then lastly, what does success look like? So these questions, I know this is just the start of a conversation and a thought for yourself, but I'm going to give you a minute here to maybe just write down these questions, or start thinking about this. And if anyone has a movement goal already that they want to share in the chat, or if anyone has any follow-ups to this, please, I'm going to be monitoring the chat and give you about 60 seconds here just to think about these different factors. So on this page, you have a couple of prompts here as well, thinking about why movement might be important to you. Does it make you feel better? Does it make you have more energy, etc.? Awesome. I see a post from Joanne here in the chat earlier, thinking about how to get back to the why, how to get back to that exercise level. So let's set some small goals towards it. Awesome. Yeah, Marianne says shortness of breath is an issue for her. How does she start increasing her oxygen or overcoming that shortness of breath? And yeah, we have a lot of individuals that have come in with lung cancer to our programs, and shortness of breath is a big one. So that's all about building those gradual goals and starting small and overcoming that shortness of breath. And when you build fitness back too, that's going to help your body get in oxygen and overcome that shortness of breath. Awesome. I see another one in the chat here. Mary Beth, thanks for sharing. She says she's been walking 2 to 3 times per week with a neighbor. She uses that as social time as well as physical activity, which I think is awesome. So you're getting social. And one of her goals is she wants to work up to being able to walk the golf course this summer. Last summer, she was able to golf, but she had to use a cart, and she wants to work towards walking the golf course this summer. That's awesome, Mary Beth. And I think you highlighted that that's a goal that's really relevant to you. That's something that's going to improve your quality of life. And it's going to be that proud moment this summer that I'm confident you can get to and walk that golf course. Brenda says she has exercise classes daily at her senior center. Awesome. So we're going to move on here just in the interest of time, but I appreciate everyone sharing their ideas and thoughts about starting to set a goal. You can continue this on your own. I encourage you to think about this and then also share with a partner or share with a friend what your goal was. So the second thing we're going to talk about a little bit in terms of tips of staying physically active, getting physically active, is starting to view movement as a lifestyle and viewing yourself as a mover. So this diagram here on the right shows kind of a circle of different steps towards building and maintaining physical activity habits. We talked about finding your motivation, that number one there, finding enjoyment, making it social, and the value of social support in number three. But this is a cyclical process, and sometimes it's not always linear. Maybe it goes up and down a little bit. But as you can see, that pillar at the very center of this diagram is thinking about yourself as a mover, gaining that confidence and realizing that, yes, I can move and I can be a mover, I can be an exerciser. And that's an important piece. So starting low, progressing slow. We already talked about that as well. But I'm going to pose a couple of questions for you to think about here in terms of viewing yourself as a mover. So this is going to be, again, another active part. I encourage you to please share with me in the chat your thoughts here, but think about these two questions. How do you incorporate movement into your daily life? So how are you moving already? And then question number two, what can you do to move more in your daily life? So think about these two, and then if you're feeling up for it, please share in the chat. You can type something like, I am a mover because, and then insert some of your answers to question one in there. And you can share things like, I'm committed to moving more by, and then thinking about what you might want to do to move more in daily life. It'd be awesome to hear from you on this one. And we'll let Juliana talk about some of our resources just coming up. I know I'm giving you a lot to think about here today. So if it's just writing down these questions once again and starting to think about it and then coming back to these conversations with friends and family, that's awesome as well. Thinking about these questions a little bit, but you can post them in the chat here. We're going to move on just in the interest of time, but please, I'm going to be reading the chat, especially as I pass it on to Juliana and thinking about some of our exercise oncology resources. So I'll pass it on to Juliana here. Thanks again for listening to me, and we'll move it over to Juliana, who's the expert on all things exercise oncology resources within Canada. So I'm going to stop my video and thank you for your time and pass it on to Juliana.
Perfect. Thank you, Manny. Okay, everyone. So I am Juliana. I'm very happy to be here. I'm the Excel research coordinator. So I'll be talking about Excel, but I'll also be talking about some of our other resources through the Health and Wellness Lab. Just so everyone knows, Excel, which stands for Exercise for Cancer to Enhance Living Well, is supported and funded by the Canadian Institutes of Health Research, the Canadian Cancer Society, with additional funding from the Alberta Cancer Foundation. Thanks, Manny. Next slide. And we also have the ACE program, which I'll be talking about soon. All right, so we have a couple different programs and studies that are running out of our lab. So the ACE study stands for Alberta Cancer Exercise Program. And this was started in 2017 with our group. ACE was really developed to serve those living with cancer in urban Alberta. And because it was so successful and we realized that there were people in rural areas that were underserved, we started to develop the Excel program. So Excel provides programming across Canada for those in rural areas. And we actually started this study at the beginning of the pandemic. So we recognized that there is actually a need for those living in cities across Canada who didn't have access to in-person exercise oncology programs anymore, that they actually needed some resources as well. So we've opened it up to those living in cities who don't have exercise oncology programs. So both ACE and Excel are free. They are 12-week programs and they are tailored to each individual's needs. And we're going to talk a bit more about that later on. The programs are led by exercise professionals who have received additional training to work with those living with cancer. We think this is very important so that our instructors know different treatment-related side effects that their participants may be experiencing and how to modify the program based on those side effects and what people are experiencing. Excel is just offering online programs right now. We're hoping to have some in-person programs available. And then the ACE study has online programs, and they are also doing some in-person programs in Calgary and Edmonton, and potentially Lethbridge in the spring. Next slide, please. All right, so ACE and Excel are identical in what the program looks like. So as I said, it's free, it's 12 weeks, and it's group-based. So the classes run twice a week. They are 60 minutes long. And we combine aerobic training, resistance training, balance, and stretching. So you get it all in our circuit style classes. And we really tailor based on participant needs. So this is why once you express interest, you get in touch with us and let us know you're interested in a program. We will go through screening as well as assessments to see where you're at and see what your baseline fitness levels are. And then we tailor based on participant needs. So even if you don't have very much equipment available, we will just work with what you've got. We are using the Zoom platform. So for safety reasons, in addition to the instructor, we have a moderator as well. So the moderator is keeping eyes on screen at all times. So we make sure that we can see all of our individuals exercising, looking for any safety issues, and then also just helping the instructor with cueing to make sure that you're working safely and effectively. Next slide, please. All right, so here are some common questions that we have. So, you know, some people say, I haven't done exercise classes before. Do I need previous experience? Absolutely not. So there's some people that come to us who haven't done classes before. They're not quite sure what to expect, but we just meet you where you're at, and we start our programs very basic exercises. We focus on form, so you have a really strong foundation, and then we slowly progress over the 12 weeks. Another question is, I don't have equipment. Can I still participate? So when I was teaching some exercise classes, I didn't have weights available, so I was using soup cans or water bottles that I filled up. So we really just encourage you to get creative with what you have around the house. We just need you to have a safe space to work out in. And if you have additional equipment, then that's just a bonus. Other people might ask, I'm on treatment and I don't feel good for a few days after. Should I join now? So we do have people who are on treatment who are joining our programs, and we recognize that there's going to be fluctuations in how you're feeling. There's going to be fluctuations in your fatigue levels. And so we just want to have constant communication back and forth between the participant and the instructor. So we know how you're feeling, and we can tailor it based on how you feel day to day. So there may be some time, you know, if you're feeling quite fatigued after treatment, you have class the next day. Maybe you're just doing, instead of regular cardio where you're marching on the spot, we might just have you sit in the chair and march in the chair instead. So we have so many tricks up our sleeve and different exercises and modifications. And we just want you to, if you're able to, just show up and do your best, and we will be able to modify for you. Another question is, you know, I have a bad hip and I can't get on and off the floor. So we definitely have people that struggle to get on and off the floor. And we have, one of our circuits is for your core muscles, which is floor-based. But then we provide all of our instructors with modifications for those who just want to do standing variations or seated variations. So again, lots of tips and tricks. So we will just meet you where you're at, and we'll modify based on your needs. Next slide, Manny. All right, so we have our Excel participant voices video. So I can tell you that I think it's a great program, but I think it really has more impact when you hear from some of our participants themselves. I'll see if it works.
Hello, I'm David Folks Jones.
My name is Linda.
My name is Ona Les Nonas.
My name is Dale Weisbrot.
My name is Margot McPhail.
I live in Canmore, Alberta.
I'm from Stettler, Alberta.
I'm from Ottawa.
I'm here in Regina.
Camrose, Alberta.
I started the Excel program about 3 weeks ago, I think, 3-4 weeks ago.
I joined the program because I felt a need to increase my physical activity.
As a cancer survivor, I was in a bit of a funk. I lacked motivation to keep fit. I needed a structure to restart and to improve my physical and emotional well-being.
I think the main thing that I was told in the very beginning is, even though you don't want to, get off the couch, get off the bed, get off the chair, get up and do something.
When I saw the program and it's geared towards cancer patients and helping them in the journey to getting back to fitness, I was overwhelmed. Like, I was super happy.
Physically, every day you feel better. And I think any day that you feel like you have your body's your own again, it's not cancer's anymore, it belongs to me, is hugely important.
I do have more energy. I feel that I have more strength and more flexibility in my body.
It gives you an opportunity to kind of take back a little bit of that control.
I can feel my energy levels going up.
The Excel program has exceeded my expectations.
It was just something to look forward to. You knew that every Tuesday and Thursday at 10:30, yay, you're going to be with human beings again.
When I saw the Excel program, you have no idea how happy I was, because I'm like, yes, finally, my people.
People that are going through the same thing as I have gone through. We supported each other with questions. If somebody had whatever, there was a support going on. And the facilitators were so wonderful for letting that happen.
I can't say enough about the instructors.
The instructors are compassionate. They provide all kinds of modifications to suit each person's needs.
It was like, someone who gets us.
They kind of engage you and you feel immediately like you want to continue with this program.
I just highly, highly, highly recommend the program. It has been phenomenal. It's been life-changing for me.
I would highly recommend it to anyone.
Awesome. So you'll see there on that last slide, and we'll provide this as well at the end. But for anyone who is interested in the program, whether it's ACE or Excel, you'll just send us an email at wellnesslab@ucalgary.ca. And from there, we will go through screening and provide any answers to your questions. So I recognize we're getting close to the end of time, so just a few more resources that the Health and Wellness Lab can offer. We have a YouTube channel where we've actually uploaded 8 weeks worth of our exercise program onto the channel. So anyone can access that, just use at your own discretion, and that's available. We also have some educational content on our YouTube channel and a breakdown of the exercises that we typically use. We also have the Thriver manual, which is the Thriving with Exercise you see there. So this manual is free, it's 90 pages long, and it has all kinds of content. A lot of it actually goes through what Manny talked about in a lot more detail. So it's a fantastic resource, and again, that's free, and we'll provide the link for that for anyone interested. And then in addition to our exercise oncology programs, Wellspring is a fantastic organization that has all kinds of resources. They have exercise programs as well. They have yoga programs, and then all kinds of other resources. So I think there's art classes that are running, financial planning. So definitely check out Wellspring for all of their supportive resources. All right, and then the last slide. So there's our email address right there, the Wellness Lab one. Mine is there as well if you have any questions about Excel. And then at the bottom is our website for our Health and Wellness Lab.